Have you ever wondered how a gaming laptop really stacks up against a gaming desktop? This is the day and age of gaming laptops, for goodness sakes. You can buy any machine that will run any game at 1080p. I mean, some will run it at medium, and right up to ultra, even 1440p. They'll even do workstation tasks. You can use them for video editing, audio editing, whatever you want to do. But they're still extremely expensive. So, I asked myself, could an older desktop go toe-to-toe with a gaming laptop from this day and age? Let's find out. Alright guys, so competing on the laptop side, we have an Alienware 17 R3. That is rocking an i7 6700HQ quad-core chip running at 2.6 GHz. It is 16 GB of DDR4 RAM and a GTX 970M. For storage, we have a 256GB NVMe drive from Samsung, and data and programs, we have a 1TB drive, just generic 5400 RPM. On the price side, it is quite expensive. So Australian dollars, this machine will cost about $3,000 at time of purchase, so quite expensive. Alright, so on the desktop side, we have an AMD A8 5600K. It is backed up by 16GB of DDR3 RAM. And also on the graphics card side, we've gone with an older card, same as the CPU. It's a GTX 670. It's a 2GB version. In the laptop, it's a 3GB version, so it's worth remembering that. Storage-wise, we have a 120GB SSD, just boot drive, and then a 500GB drive for the games, basically. So, cost of this system, as is, including the screen, monitor, all that sort of stuff, it's going to cost around $550 Australian. US, that will convert to about $400. So, without further ado, guys, let's put these two together. Let's let them fight. And my assumption is it will actually be a lot closer than what you think it will be. So,
okay, guys, so we're just going to have a look at the benchmarks we're going to run now. So, first one is Fallout 4, running at 1080p Ultra. The second will be Doom, 1080p Medium with no anti-aliasing. Third is GTA 5, 1080p Normal, no anti-aliasing again. Fourth will be F1 2015, 1080p, Ultra, all settings maxed on the Stormy Weather benchmark. And final game will be Battlefield 1 at 1080p, all on medium settings with no anti-aliasing. And then moving on to synthetic benchmarks, we'll then run Unigine Valley. This is in the extreme HD setting, so 1080p, all the settings maxed. That'll be followed by Cinebench R15 to test the CPUs. And there'll be the OpenGL test as well. And finally, it'll be the Ryzen Blender benchmark, the controversial one. So in Fallout 4, on the desktop, just playing it on the desktop, we found it was pretty smooth. Again, the frame drops are down at 15, but otherwise it was quite playable. On the laptop side, it was a bit more smooth, and just, a better experience we kind of found. Moving to Doom, this is where we sort of started to see a bit of CPU bottleneck happening. So those consistent frames for the desktop of 23, 22, and 24 are very much characteristic of CPU. As for the laptop, it was buttery smooth. So for GTA 5, we saw pretty much all round, it was just a great experience. The pro gamer might notice the difference between an average of 46 and 86 frames, but in general, pretty buttery smooth. Obviously on the laptop, just absolutely no lag at all. Then moving on to F1 2015, this was a synthetic benchmark, so it was pretty much set and forget. However, playing this game, this is a game where you do notice anything less than 60 frames, being a driving game. So both of these systems on the Ultra settings, I would not consider them playable, I guess, in a sense. And moving finally to Battlefield 1, on the settings that we had, buttery smooth, no issues. Was a great experience all round, and the numbers kind of reflect that. So, next we had the Valley benchmark, and this was, out of all the testing we did, probably the benchmark that highlights and kind of summarises everything for us. So, On the desktop side, this was the only test where it actually beat out the laptop by not a massive margin, but it's a noticeable margin. So you need to really remember here that this is an old graphics card from around 2012, 2013, and it is beating a modern, last gen graphics card basically. So in the laptop, so basically to summarize essentially what was happening here, and before we move on to the CPU benchmarks, we saw throughout all the tests that CPU was holding back that graphics card. So we'll move now to the CPU benchmarks so you can get a better concept of what's happening. Okay, so looking at CPU benchmarks. So obviously OpenGL went to the laptop in Cinebench, but we're more concerned about the CPU on this one. So the desktop CPU, that AMD chip, tripped a third of the score of the i7 in the laptop. To put that into perspective, that AMD CPU, for you Intel people out there, it will match about a first gen i5. It doesn't do much better than that. So then if we have a look at Ryzen as well, we saw a time of 4 minutes and 47 seconds for that AMD CPU again. This time it really destroyed by the laptop, which did it in 1 minute and 15 seconds. So all in all, that CPU was a bad choice on my part. So let's move on to the conclusion.
Alright guys, so we've done all the benchmarks, we've done all the tests, and we have surprising results, I think is the best word. So all in all, the Alienware quite happily beat the desktop by anywhere between 20 and 50% at times. But there's one benchmark we run. So the Valley benchmark, which you would have seen in the video, actually went to the desktop. Now, my theory behind this is that is completely a graphical application. So basically the CPU has nothing to do with this. And what we found was any game we ran or any program we ran, the CPU was so handicapped when it came to the i7, it just could not compete with it. And as a result, we kind of feel that the CPU was holding back that 670. So all in all, I reckon the desktop with a better CPU would have happily beat the laptop. So all in all, basically what we've learned, you can buy a really, really cheap gaming desktop that can compete with these gaming laptops. It also says that they're incredibly expensive, and I quite frankly probably wouldn't be spending money on one of these if that's all I had. I would rather just throw the money at the desktop and just get a cheap laptop that would do just enough when I'm on the go. So that's kind of my theory. So what we're going to do is next video we're going to have a look at that 670 in a much higher end system. We're going to try and put it back in that i5 that we had a couple of videos ago. And we'll go from there. So thanks for watching guys. Give it a like if you liked it, give it a dislike if you disliked it, and leave a comment down the bottom if you have any AMD hate or Intel love to give, or any Alienware love to give, or whatever it is. So thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.